Good morning. Today we will discuss about the chapter 4 of the Orange Book of the Thelma Mendoza, the philosophical and values foundation of social work. This is under or by the PowerPoint of Charlotte G. Gossen. First is let us discuss about the philosophy of social work. As we all know that man has worth and dignity. The values of social work that each person has the right to self-fulfillment deriving his inherent capacity. It all means that all of the person shall have a right to have their self-fulfillment or the satisfaction itself. Number two, each person has the obligation as a member of society to see ways of self-fulfillment that contribute to the common good. So, as a person or as a member of the society, you are also have an obligation to do the responsibility in our society, the roles and responsibilities that we had. Number three, society has the obligation to to facilitate the self-fulfillment, the individual, and the right enrichment through the contribution of its individual members. So we, as a person or as a member of the society, we have also the obligation to have our individual enrichment or the development that we had. So we as a person, we need to develop ourselves. We need to have a different aspirations or even the ambitions in order to cope up with that certain development that we had. Number four, each person requires for the harmonious development of his powers, socially provided and socially safeguarding opportunities for satisfying his basic needs in the physical, psychological, economic, cultural, aesthetics, and spiritual realms. Number five, as society becomes more complex and interdependent, increasing by a specialized social organization is required to facilitate the individual's effort at self-realization. Although conflicts between individuals and society can never be entire absent, because conflict is healthy, especially in a different organization, because it can also develop our capacity to do or the capacity to solve that certain problem. Social organization should be as such as to reduce them to a minimum. A conception of the individuals and society as interdependent leads to the view that just as it is the responsibility of society to provide appropriate social resources, it is the right of the individuals to promote change in social resources which do not serve his need meeting efforts. Concomitantly, it is the individual's obligation to satisfy the individual needs as much as possible in ways that contribute to the enrichment of society. Number six, to permit both self-realization and contribution to society by the individual, social organization must make an available socially provided devices for need satisfaction as wide in range, variety, and quality as the general welfare allows. This means that you is in your own personality and your own as a part of the society, you have also the contribution. You have also the different available. You have different social organization that must be available socially provided devices for need satisfaction. So we have the different departments in the government, even in the private. It can also help us to develop ourselves, to develop what must be the appropriate that we skills that we made or that we need. Number six, to permit both self-realization and contribution society by the individual, social organization must make available. Naulit na po ito. Let's proceed with the social work principles. First principle is acceptance of people as they are. So we as a social worker, we need to accept whatever the different types of our clients. Say for example, they are CICL, being prostituted, prisoners, what we call that, the different drug dependent. So we need to accept that certain client, as what I told you a while ago, that in the previous topic that we had is, you need to accept whatever your client is. You need to accept whatever their different attitude. So there is no hesitation to accept that certain client. Number two, participation of the client in the problem solving. We have also that certain needs in the principle of social work, that the client itself should be participate in that certain process of the helping process in social work. In doing with the case studies, the client should be participate, should be should be in that certain process. The client will go together with the worker. They have their client workers relationship also. Number three is self determination as a right of the client. So this is the most important also, or one of the most important in principles of social work. It's the self determination. It's the client self help. So you as a social worker, you need to distinguish, or you need to do the different skills that you had in order to boost their self-confidence, in order to determine their different capacities or different strength that they had in order to solve in their certain problem. So you as a social worker, you need to calculate the mind of that certain client that they can solve their problem. So you as a social worker, you are only the facilitator. You're not the one who will solve the problem, but you and the client together to solve their problem. Number four, individualization of the clients. So this is also one of the most important in the principle, because all of the client is a unique. So they have their individualization. From the word individualization, unique personalities, unique capacities, unique skills. So there is no, even the twin, they have their different attitude. So we need to respect the certain individualization of the client. Next will be the confidentiality, or what we call the preservation of secret information. So if in case the client will um will share you about their problem, so it should be a confidential. So wag mong ipasabi sa iba, or wag mo namang ipagchismisan sa iba, because that certain client share her problem or his problem because they trust in you. So you as a social worker, you need to have the confidentiality. Number five, workers' self-awareness. This is also one of the best principles of social work, because you as a worker, you have your self-awareness. We had three types of adaptation, which is the transference, counter-transference, and the reality. So let's tackle first the transference. It is the affection of the client towards to the worker. So it's that when we say affection, say for example, the client will have that certain personal affection on you. Say for example, nagkagusto siya sa iyo, or even baka naman you are like of her, you are one, or you are also the kamukha ng kanyang nanay, na kanyang tatay. So you as a social worker, you need to have a worker's self-awareness. You need to be aware that this is a professional relationship, not a personal. Another is the counter-transference. Ito, medyo mahirap po ito because you are unconscious, because it's the affection of the worker towards to the client. So a worker should have worker self-awareness. Dapat they are aware. That's why
Kung pwede lang, if you have your work, huwag kang magpadistino sa barangay mo. Say for example, in my barangay, Barangay Katanggawan. If in case I am a social worker in Barangay Katanggawan and mostly are my relatives in that certain area, so how will I exercise my worker self-awareness? Say for example, ang gusto ng mga kaparyentehan ko is mauuna sila sa different programs like 4P. So, as a matter of fact, dapat talaga alam mo on how you will handle the worker's self-awareness. So dapat talaga alam mo even you are unconscious na it's the affection towards worker to the client. So dapat at the very first time you have your limitations, boundaries towards to the client that you are aware and the client must be aware also. Number 6 is the client worker relationship. It is the heart of a social work profession. This is the main purpose and main what we call that the core value of the certain principles, the client worker relationship. So it is the very essential or important because client worker relationship, whatever the different intervention that the worker will give to the client, it should be accordance with the helping and the unity towards with the client worker relationship. Next will be the professional ethics. From the word ethics is the science that treats of moral and right conduct. Professional ethics is the system of ethical principles and rules of conduct generally accepted by the members of the professional group based of the philosophy, value, and guiding principles of the profession. All of the professional have different ethics. So we in social work profession, we have also the regulative code of ethics in social work. It is the pattern, it is the guide of attitude, guide of giving the services towards to the client. Next, value is defined as the word which man attaches to the certain things, systems, or persons within the realms of usefulness, goodness, or beauty. So we have different values. Say, for example, in my part, I value respect. In your part, you value beauty. In your part, you value your best friend. So that's the value, the importance, the worth of the certain individuals. So that's value. Skill as ability, expertness, or proficiency gained from practice and knowledge. From the word skill, it's your capability, it's your capacity, a capability, it's the expertise that you have. So as a social worker, we have different skills in order to help that certain client to solve their problem. Next will be the social acceptance, defined as being taken by one follows for what one is or believes he is, and being treated in accordance with his status. This value is facilitated by the following intermediate value. First is the sir. Sir, or also known as smooth interpersonal relations, which is facility at getting along with other in such a way to avoid outwards sign conflict. So it's the adjustment. So you as a social worker, so you as individual, you have your smooth interpersonal relationship. If you are baguhan in that certain area, so you need also to adjust and what we call that bali pag-aralan po ang kanilang mga pag-uugali if you are first time in that place or even in that culture. Letter B. Amor proprio is a term used to refer to the sensitivity to person afford and functions to protect the individual against loss of social acceptance from the word amor proprio. Um, it is a term used to refer sensitivity. So that you as a social worker, you must be have a sensitive to a person, a form and function to protect the individual against loss from the word amor proprio. Next will be the emotional closeness and security in a family.
This value is believed to be facilitated through the following: sacrificing individuals' interest for a good of the family, parentals striving to give their children an education even at great cost of themselves, older children sacrificing for the younger siblings and others. So that's the emotional closeness and security in a family. So mostly of all of us, say for example, yung panganay, so inuuna mo na kapakanan ng ng mga nakakabata sa kanya, pinapauna yung pag-aaral or even the parents, yan po. So that's a part of emotional closeness and security in a family. That's why we are labeled from the other country that we are bonded with the family, whatever will happen. Unlike the other country, say for example the US, at exactly 18 years old of the 13th son or daughter, they should be separated and they should find work. But here in our country, which is Philippines, we are very, very attached with a certain extended family or what we call that, basta magkakasama ang mga pamilya kahit naghihirap. So that's one of the attitude, maybe a positive, and there are sometimes a negative one. And next will be, this is the code of ethics of social work. We, the members of Pathway or the Philippine Association of Social Workers Incorporated, believing number one, in the inherent worth and dignity of all person, emanating for a supreme being who directs of love for one another. Number two, that every human being has the natural and social rights, capacities, and responsibilities to develop their full potentials as a human being. Number three, in the human being's capacity to change and recognize the value of unity in diversity, individual differences, pluralism in the society. Number four, and free men and women living in the free society where poverty in all its forms is neither a fate nor punishment but is condition that can and must be changed. Number six, in the family as a basic unit of society and its vital role in the growth and development of the individual, the family system, and the community. Number seven, that the government, the private sectors, and the public have a joint responsibility to promote social justice and to ensure the political, economic, and social well being of all people. Number eight, in the role of social worker as agent and advocates of change and in the promotion of professionalism, responsibility, and accountability, and that our professional practice is deeply rooted in our cultural values. So that's the eighth principle, that's the eighth regulative code of ethics of social work. To declare that we shall abide by their standard of ethical code of ethics. The philosophical and value formation of social work related to the self and the profession. Number one, to conduct myself in a manner consistent with the philosophy, principles, values, and belief of the social work profession. So yun yung mga in-explain ko, the philosophy, the principles, that you are also abide with the certain rules and regulations. To act at all times with honesty, to katotohanan, openness, you are open, transparency in all the professional transmitted, to constantly work my own professional advancement so as to contribute to the promotion of social work practice. So after you will get your RSW or the license, you are also obliged to have a professional advancement or what we call the CPD. It's the continuous professional development. You will go to your masteral degree or you have your different trainings that have a CPD in order to renew every 3 years that your license mag-expired po kasi yan. So you are obliged to us to have or to submit that certain seminar with have a CPD. Next will be the to contribute The professional experts to activity that promote respect for the integrity and competence of social worker. To share research knowledge and practice wisdom, colleagues and other professionals. To be vigilant and act to prevent the unauthorized and unqualified practice of a social work. If in case you cannot pass the board exam about social work, there are different obligation that you will not be qualified. Say for example, you cannot signature that certain case study because only RSW should have an authorized to sign that certain case study with matching their different professional or registered PRC ID. Next will be to respond and volunteer my professional services in times which is an agency. So you are a representative of your certain agency which is you are under with your work to uphold and protect the dignity and integrity of the profession and to promote cultural values, well enhance and practice of social work profession. Next, let's proceed with the relative to client. To uphold the basic human rights of client and serve them without discrimination. Number two, to accept primary responsibilities and accountability to client. So you are obliged. So you have accountability or whatever happened to the client, it's your obligation. Ikaw po ang mananagot kung may mga negative na nangyari sa client. So I'm warning you that should be a process. Say for example, you will do your case studies or even in the most crucial fields in social work, which is the forensic social worker, you need to have a different process, the investigation, because whatever the client anong mangyayari kay client, accountability mo or responsibilities mo to seek out the marginalized and ensure equal access to the resources, services, and opportunity required to meet basic needs. So, say for example, also you as a social worker, you have to do a outreach program. You need to go from the different what we call the deprived, marginalized groups such as being disadvantaged women or different or other different clientele that we had. Next will be to expand choice and opportunity for all persons with special regards for disadvantaged or oppressed groups of people. The word to expand choice and opportunity. So you have different linkaging, you have different referral process na kahit pa paano matulungan mo lahat ng mga kliyente mo in terms of that certain needs na meron sila. Relative to colleague, to acknowledge the respect and professional experts of the other discipline, extending all necessary cooperations that will enhance effective services. So we have two types of being a professional na kasama natin. First is the paraprofessional. These are other professions that will help us to our client's problem also. Say for example, in medical, you as a medical social worker, so you need also to have that courtesy call from the other professionals like the doctors and the nurses. So yun yung tinatawag natin ng paraprofessional. Other social worker from the other fields, say for example, in my situation, I am an academic social worker. So if in case you have your OJT, so I will refer you from the different agencies. So that's what we call other agencies or they are also social worker. It's the co-professionals. Yun po ang pagkakaiba ng para-professionals at co-professionals. Next will be sharing they bring any violation of professional ethics and standards to the attention of the appropriate bodies inside and out the professions and ensure that relevant clients and properly involved and to advocate with legislative and policies bodies for the welfare for all colleagues. So we as a social worker, that's why we have also our role being a change agent, being an activist.
So it's one of our part to advocate with legislative and policy bodies. Next will be beside the above code ethics, which is binded to all professional social workers. Once they become registered, the new social workers swear to the following professional oath before a representative of the Professional Regulative Commission. Following her passing of the Social Work Board exam, the oath is in a national language. Say for example, you pass the board exam, so before you will have to have that certain PRCID license, you need to have your oath taking. So ito po yung napapaloob sa oath taking if in case na you pass the board exam and you have your oath taking. It is written in Tagalog as we all know the national language. Ako si, say for example my name, ako si Roldan Ahiro Carpisano ay taimtim na nanunumpa at ipagtatanggol ang saligang batas ng Pilipinas na ako'y tunay na mananaig at tatalima rito na susundin ko. Utos na legal at yung and so on and so forth. So this is also find or you will have find this in the orange book. Another, in addition to the foregoing code and oath, there are unwritten duties and obligations that are expected of a professional social worker. The following are some of these. Number one, the duties towards client. A professional deals with the client openly and frankly. A professional is patient, maunawain, tolerant, and considerate of the client point of view. You need to respect their point of view. Next will be a professional never once treat of or deceit. So wag mo siyang tatakutin. A professional is punctual in keeping excuse me, appointment and mark no compromises she cannot keep. Ayun. Another, a professional is careful and true in dealing with client's problem. A professional never discriminates against any client giving so-called hopeless cases as much as attentions as promising ones. So we as a social worker, we don't believe in hopeless cases. We do believe that certain client problem should have a different problem and have different solving process. That's why the client go to our office or go to us in order us to help them. They're unconscious about their problem. Next will be a professional will act in relation to the client's problem only on the basic of the adequate knowledge of the client's situation. Number two, duties towards colleagues and the professional. A professional is courteous and fair in dealing with co-workers. You need to become courteous, maunawain, at marunong po tayo makipagkapwa-tao sa ating kasamahan or other social worker. A professional cooperates with co-worker in the pursuit of common goals. A professional should maintain high standards of honors, integrity, and morality. A professional make only constructive critics of the be objective in doing a critique. Say for example, in my student, so don't blame one, but you need to become objective, pangkalahatan. Ayan. Next will be a professional does not exploit the professional membership and distinguishes between activities she does as a private citizen as a member of professional. 3. The duties towards the agency organization. A professional is loyal to her agency. Whatever happened, if you're under with a certain agency, you are loyal. You need to protect. Say for example, if that are in case they have a negative in the certain agency, you need to ask permission and you need to ask, ma'am, why this is happened to our agency. But before that, you need to also to investigate before doing any professional and loyal, or what you call, and disrespectful. You need to investigate. You are not biased about that certain decision making that you make. Another, a professional cooperates in the achievements of her agency goals. So we need to cooperate as one and at certain goals kung saan ka. Next will be a professional seek opportunity to participate in the formulation of policies, therefore contributing the improvement of agency services. So we have different evaluations. Say for example, doing that certain project in the CCT or DSWD. So we as a professional, we need also to contribute the evaluation, or what we call the recommendation that we had from the other agency or in that certain agency where you are working for. A professional does not just oppose agency policies without voiced discussing the matter with appropriate persons. A professional observes established agency roles, channels, or modifications if there are not necessary. You need to ask the different heads, you need to have a protocol, house to house calls before doing. Wag mo itaas agad. You need to ask permission from the different protocol or that certain people that will address to that certain problem. Duties towards the community or a public. A professional responds promptly to requests for the assistance. A professional makes use of appropriate opportunity to interpret her work to the community as a professional. And as lastly, a professional helps bring about a sound and constructive public opinion in matters of social concern. So with three, the most common bottom line of the three, you are the voice of that certain community. So you need to have a conscious. You have also to have a different skills or strategies on how to deal with a certain community in that certain person, their attitude. So you need also to have that different style and strategies. That's the duty towards the community or public. Another, the preceding obligation are a given or understood as being practiced by professionals and therefore do not have to be stated explicitly in the code. Why is there a need for a system or professional ethics, particularly in the form of written code? The following are among the purposes served by the professional code of ethics. This is the answer. It helps check abuses which can result from the powers and privilege accompanying the monopoly enjoyed by the professional. So it is the pattern, it is a guide, principles kung ano ang dapat gawin ng isang professional. We as a social worker, that's why we have a regulative code of ethics in social work. For example, social worker enjoys a monopoly in the preparation of the client's case history in the agency dealing with the child adoption, as well as in the family courts, which dictates action on youthful offenders. It provides the community some protections against abuses by the member of the professional. There are some times that the social worker is really mayabang na, or even alam niya nang gagawin, but at the end of the time, we are only the facilitator. We should have, hayaan po natin sila on what they want, but at the very first time, we need to guide them. We need to give options. Ayan. Example, the community is made are of professional standards in light of which conduct of members by be evaluated and if need a censure. It sets forth basic principles which serve as guidelines to members of the professional and which are help in the socialization of future professionals. It sets guides for relationship, if not specific duties member to each others, to their clients, and to other groups.
It is a useful resource of enrichment or improvement of the professional curriculum. The enrichment or the improvement or the development of that certain social worker. That's why sinabi ko kanina sa inyo na in order to develop the certain social worker, they have different seminars and trainings to be conducted or to be attended, or even in doing or to educate them in a higher level to have their masteral degree. And so that's the end of the chapter 4 of Thelma Mendoza, the Orange Book, which is the philosophical and values foundation of social work by under with this PowerPoint by Charlotte G. Gossett. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for the participation. I hope you get a lesson or you get a knowledge about the chapter 4. So in that situation, after the chapter 4, we will proceed to chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8. But 5, 6, 7, 8 is under with the reporting system. So not only, it's not a normal reporting system that we had. I want that this next Saturday is the deadline of your PowerPoint audio presentation according to your report. So all of you will submit before Saturday your different report, uh, just like ito yung style na ginagawa natin. So you need to discuss and report. Yun po, dapat po talaga makita natin or madinig natin no how you explain and that certain report. So isa-isahin ko po at bibigyan ko po kayo ng different topic na mangyayari and to be discussed today about that certain topic, and we have the different criteria for judging for the rubrics. So thank you very much for your participation. Again, this is Mr. Roldan A. Carpisano, a registered social worker, a licensed professional teacher, and sooner a master of science in social work. Have a blessed day and goodbye.